welcome to our live stream. Today, we're going to talk about performance management and how it can help keep your people engaged and performing well. I'm Matt, Communication Business Partner here at Iris, and I'm joined by our HR expert, Lizzy and HR product expert, Stuart Bate. Lizzy looks after our own HR operations here at Iris, so she knows firsthand how to get performance management right, and Stuart can tell us how technology internally supports all these initiatives. So, hi Lizzy, hi Stuart, how are we both?
Hi Ant, hi Stuart, hi everyone. Great to see you this morning.
Good. So, to kickstart our session, Lizzy, could you tell us why having good performance management is so important?
Oh, and it's an amazing question to kick us off, Ant. So really a whole host of reasons why good performance management is really important. Kind of two of the main ones, of course, are to make sure that actually people are performing as we hope they would, that they are delivering fantastic things for our businesses, so that we know we've got the right people in the right places and actually they are delivering on the bottom line that we all know is so important. Fundamentally, performance management is also really important for each person as an individual, because people are doing meaningful work that stretches and challenges them, so that they're able to continue to progress in their professional lives. So really, when we're talking about performance management, we're not just talking about managing underperformance, but actually really thinking about how we can help our teams exceed and grow as well. And we know that not only does this mean that people perform better when they're in the role, actually they are less likely to leave. So we've got lots and lots of research that shows that obviously 65% of people might actively be looking for a new job at any one time. So People Management, one of the kind of main HR publications, shares that slightly terrifying statistic with us. But actually, when surveyed, those people also said that nearly half of them would motivate to stay in their role if actually they felt they were getting that learning and development and progression opportunities that meant they could see them grow within their current organisation. So really, really important that we're empowering people to not need to jump elsewhere to make that next move in their career, but really see how they can progress internally as well.
Yeah, clearly important stuff. So Lizzy, how do many businesses currently manage their performance?
Oh, so also a great question. So it's a real range. And we actually see a lot of businesses who are still relatively simple in the way that they manage their performance management systems. So they might actually not even have a system at all. It could be things like you probably, in the relatively old-fashioned way of being in an office, might even print out some pages of kind of self-review forms for people to fill in, or you might use spreadsheets or Word documents or emails as a way of saying, please do kind of put your feedback down, then share it manually with your manager. And actually, I've even worked at places in the past where that's the case, and it's a real challenge of being able to kind of really be able to get that holistic view from an HR perspective of how many have completed those sorts of things, how easy it is to complete from a user basis. So actually using software to support these sort of initiatives makes such a difference. So people are just able to log into a particular system, able to enter the information that they want, and then that can be shared automatically with that person's manager. And then crucially, of course, from an HR function that I'm always thinking about, we're able to then pull reports in the background from that as well. So I think Stuart's got a really lovely demonstration of Iris Cascade, which we of course use as Iris internally, as a really fantastic way of actually capturing that annual performance conversation. So Stuart, if you'd like to share your screen, please feel free.
Yes, absolutely. So as you mentioned, just in terms of simplicity and trying to keep these screens as simple as possible for the users, because you don't want them to disengage from them halfway through. So, we've had a lot of customers that do seem to over-engineer their development screens quite a bit. So it shows a lot, they're listing too many questions that they're asking the employee, and they're talking for too long. So trying to keep these screens as simple as possible and also have some clear instructions on here. I've tried to add a splash of color to it as well, just to make it quite striking, so you can actually notice, which bits are your eyes need to focus on, and which areas you go into. So this is going to be a collaborative screen that will be designed for the manager and the employee to complete. So we've color coded the sections, for the employee to complete the green sections and the manager to complete the blue sections. And then we can have our end of year ratings, and we can go through the whole process from start to finish. But with all of this, the key thing when you were actually building screens within Cascade is to ensure that you've got your objectives and your activities clearly marked out in separate columns, so that when you do produce reports, you're going to be able to have those separate areas fully reportable, and you can get a full list of where everybody's up to on each quarter or at the end of the year, whichever you prefer.
Well, really good to see how that helps, Stuart. Thanks. So, Lizzy, throwing it back to you, what are some of the other common pitfalls businesses face when they don't have software?
Oh, so I've actually lived that from some painful experience. So, previous companies that I've worked at, where we've used paper forms or email forms, it's really hard to keep track of actually who have had some meaningful conversations, who might have completed part of their self-review, if that's part of the performance management process. Have they had the conversation with the employee, and actually what was the outcome of that conversation? So were there particularly development objectives or personal or professional tasks that person wanted to take away from that discussion? And actually that's really hard to track from an employer perspective if everything's done on individual Word documents or spreadsheets or emails. And one of the really important things that Stuart briefly showed there was the ability to be able to create objectives or tasks which have a deadline associated with them. Because one of the things that Cascade can do that is so helpful is it can then be set up to send emails to people to say, hey, did you know that as part of your performance review, you had set an objective that by the end of this particular day, you wanted to have attended some training on this particular topic. This is a reminder that that's 2 weeks before the deadline now. So actually, that's a great reminder that doesn't require any intervention from the HR or learning teams to make sure that actually people are on track with those things. Because one of the things that can happen with performance reviews, whether they're annually or more regularly, is that they're a really nice conversation while they happen, but actually they then don't lead to any action. So everybody comes away from it going, yep, I'm definitely going to do all of those things. And working life, personal life just takes over. And actually we find at the next review, you go, well, yeah, I still agree I would like to do all of those things, but you've lost that time doing them. So it's one of those things that can really keep you honest, both as an employee and as a manager, to be able to say, actually, am I holding my employees to account and empowering them to make the most of their careers as well. So really having that workflow technology is really, really helpful and valuable as part of that process. One of the other things that is really useful is the overall insights it gives us from an HR perspective and from a manager perspective. So one of the things that Stuart's going to show us is some of the workflows around that, but also then to be able to see have people actually held these conversations? Have they been following any objectives? And actually, can we pull some reports on that to maybe inform the types of training that the organisation put on over the next few months? We know that people wanted this sort of training because the data tells us so. So really allows us to be data driven. So over to you, Stuart, if you want to show some more beautiful examples of this.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, as you mentioned, keep it on top of the actual performances during the course of the year, because it's, there's a significant amount of customers that I've spoken to where they've created beautiful screens for performance review, and then the managers have just filled out their bit on the very first day, and then the employees have done theirs, and then they've completely forgotten about it for the rest of the year. So workflows are very much in there just to keep you, as you mentioned, keep you honest. So I've created one here for my performance management screen, and I've set it out into a few different blocks within the system. Now, if I can view it by employee, but I can also view it by the tasks that need to be completed. So we can see a full map of exactly where we're up to with all of our workflows in the system. So, but just going through what I've actually set out here, I've got the first meeting. So as soon as the manager actually enters a start date for that performance review, then that can trigger the workflow into action. So as soon as that's been activated, then we can be requesting the data entry from both the manager and the employee to set the initial indicators and also the review dates. And then the employee is going to complete specific sections within that review form. Now, you can allocate specific areas and text screens and columns that you need them to fill out and make it mandatory for them to fill those areas out, but they can't fill out quarter 2 or quarter 3 or however that's, set out within the system. So you can give them specific access to those screens at that point, and they're the only sections that they can fill out. And then we're asking the managers to, put their objectives and the learning plans into the system as well at this point, so we can prompt them to do that. And then this particular workflow is going to sit dormant for 3 months. But at that point, what it'll do is it'll actually generate a report to go to the manager to give them an update on how that employee is doing against their objectives. And also remind the manager as well, this is the 3-month point and we need to do a review. You need to go through the reports and then you can enter the next set of text within that screen. And then we just keep moving into, from 3 months into 6 months and then into 9 months. And then when we actually get to the year-end review, then we can be asking both the employee and the manager to actually complete their finishing up sections where they can, evaluate how they did for the year and how they were progressing and whether or not they achieved the goals that they were aiming for.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Stuart. Sorry to jump in there, and I also, just wanted to say just how useful those screens are and actually how adaptable they are. So some years where we've kind of wanted to ask an additional question, or one of the things that we're doing or kind of planning to do over the next few months is launch an e-learning system within Iris. And so actually that's a fantastic way of us being able to enhance what we can offer for our employees. And what we're able to do really simply within Cascade is then add new fields or add new reminders or add additional guidelines into those screens so that we are empowering managers and employees when we're having those sorts of conversations to know what options are out there. So I think that's just a really important point to add. So sorry to jump in and interrupt there, Ant.
No, of course, Lizzie. It's really useful. It's really cool to see how we can support L&D. I guess, what other role, Lizzie, do you think L&D and performance management have? How does it all link together?
Oh, well, fundamentally, they go absolutely hand in hand. So, again, I think there's 2 ways of thinking about performance management. The first of which being, how do we identify and support people who are not performing as they should be? And this is a really helpful thing to be able to automate in a system like Cascade. So again, really empowering those managers to have those conversations with employees in a structured way, capture the information, and then keep that record really clearly so that managers and employees can see, actually, how was this person doing 6 months ago versus how are they doing now, to see if the kind of support and improvements have taken effect. And one of the things you're able to do with that is we, for example, have a performance improvement screen built into Cascade, so that if somebody needs to go down the informal route, then we can capture that sort of discussion and the outcomes from those. And in the unfortunate times, occasionally when somebody might have to have a formal performance improvement plan, that we can actually document that on Cascade as well, so that when somebody does improve and achieve those improvement objectives, we're able to capture them on there, tick that off, and then that stays on their record so that we can put reports on how many people that is. And then we're able to say if that person then changes manager, they get the information that's shared to have that wider context for the person in their team. But of course, what we really hope is that performance management is by and large focused on helping people perform even better, to excel in their careers and actually to move forward, get those promotions and learn and grow. And that's really where L&D can also add so much value. So being able to, as I said, identify what sort of training might be available within the organisation for particular individuals is really, really helpful as part of that. And we also recognise that lots and lots of development that we can have professionally isn't necessarily about attending a particular course or attending a qualification. It actually could be about, how do I shadow with somebody who's a complete expert in something that I want to know about? Can I get involved with a project or a team who I've never worked with before? Can I join my manager in particular meetings so I get a bit more exposure to the business that I wouldn't necessarily have done before? So really, to go around the fantastic screens that we have in Cascade, we really are able to use things like attaching documents to the different screens or providing instructions to be able to give some of those examples when managers and employees are thinking about their performance and where they want to go next, so they can actually see not only where they do want to go next, but also around actually what are some of the different steps and activities I can take in order to get there. And really, really easy to be able to put those things in place. And actually, Cascade's a fantastic one-stop shop for a lot of those things, including getting employees to book training of things that are kind of run or built into the system for external courses that we can link to. So, Stuart, over to you if you want to share it. I love this feature. I think it's absolutely fantastic of making Cascade that one-stop shop for everything that people need.
Absolutely, it's one of my favorites as well. So once you've actually got the training module within the system, then what that's going to open up for you are things like personal development plans. So managers are going to be able to create these personal progression plans for the employees within the system, and really drive in where do they want to go in their career path. And once they've actually decided what they want to do, then we can create that plan within here. So what the plans can actually be is based on a specific post or a profile of a role. So just as an example, if the employee decides that they want to be, an assembly manager within the system, so they're going to be able to see, the kind of roles that are available within the organization, and then they can select a specific post that they aspire for. So once you've actually selected that, then you can attach specific training courses and specific tasks that they need to do as part of that for their career progression. So there's a certain level of training courses that I've attached within here that are part of that specific skills that they need for this particular role. So we can also set target dates against this as well. So we can be monitoring what the objective is and how long it's actually going to take them to achieve these goals. So, this is a 12-month objective setting that we've got in the system, and we can be monitoring it all the way. So once an employee has actually completed a training course, we can be connecting to e-learning sites, and we can be pulling that data back in, or from, external in-person training as well. Where they can be sending the data that people have attended courses, they've passed or they've failed, that sort of thing. All that information can all be put into here. But once we're ticking off, specific training courses that people have attended, any tasks that they want to do, as you mentioned, if they're going to spend some time in different departments, any other kind of activities that they're going to be doing. And then from there, the manager is going to be getting regular updates and reports on how, what their progression actually looks like. But we're also going to give the employees some self-service functionality as well. So once they've got their objectives set within the system and they know which training courses they need to do, then we can actually give them a training inquiry screen within the system here, where they can request to go on a particular training course. So you'll be able to list all of your training courses within the system in here. You can have ad hoc inquiries as well if you need to. But once you've actually set the actual particular course on there, if you've got particular schedules, or if you've just got, it's available at all times, then you can put that in. The employee can put some notes as to why they need to go onto that particular training course, and then that can go through to their manager for approval, or it can go through to your training manager, however you want to work, really. But from there, it's going to give them that ability to be able to book the training courses, and they've got the destiny in their own hands at that point. But from a record keeping point of view, you've also got the training history screens within the system. So within here, we can list any and all training courses that people have attended, and also if they've got any expiry dates. So if it's a 12-month course, for instance, that needs to be refreshed every year, then we can be reminding the employees as well as the managers if they need to update those courses and make sure they're keeping on top of their learning. How does that look?
Oh, it's fabulous. Thank you, Stuart. And one of the things that I think is so important kind of as an HR professional, I know our learning and development team, as do our recruitment team, is just some of the insights that data gives us. So we're really passionate about internal mobility, making sure that people are able to get that next promotion and take that next step. And actually to be able to have that data there to say, well, actually, we know that these are the courses that people have been on, or if we have a new vacancy for somebody where we need specific skills, what we're able to do is then pull those reports from Cascade and be able to say, well, actually, we already have these skills internally. We can reach out to some of these people and see if that next opportunity would be something that they would be interested in. So again, it's a really nice way of going hand in hand that an employee is preparing themselves for a potential next role, but it also gives us that much wider insight for that internal mobility piece. And it's also super helpful for workforce planning. So I know many people listening today might every year have a think of like, right, what skills do we have in the business this year? What skills are we likely to need next year? And this is a great way of having that to say, well, we know what skills people have in the business. We know what they've learned. So actually, how are we going to put people in the right places to deliver what we need them to deliver in the coming year as well? So just having that data at your fingertips is so, so useful.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you both. So I guess rounding off the session, Lizzy, I'll throw it back to you. What advice would you give people looking to improve their performance management?
Oh, it's a great question. So I would say it really depends what their starting point is. So there are some people who say, well, to improve it, we would put any performance management in place at all. So it might be that people don't have regular opportunities where they encourage their managers and their employees to talk to each other about not just about day-to-day work stuff, but actually how are we doing as a team? How are our employees working? How are they feeling? What are they learning? What are they really proud of? And actually, what do they want the next step in their career to be? Or if they don't know, because often people don't know, actually, how can we pull out what they're really good at, what they really enjoy, what they would like to do more of, so that we can help shape their careers. So if you have nothing in place at the moment, then really thinking about how that should look for your organization is really, really helpful to really go, okay, how regularly would we want our employees and managers to talk to each other? So what we say is that we want managers and employees to be talking to each other all the time. I have a team who are amazing. I talk to them every day, which includes a little bit of a check-in, how are you doing? But it won't be that big conversation of, how have you found the past year or the past 6 months? What do you want to keep learning? How do you want to grow? What do you love doing? It's not usually that sort of bigger conversation. So the way we do it here at Iris is we have an annual performance conversation, performance and development conversation, I would say. So really looking back about what they'd achieved over the last 12 months and actually looking forward to the next 12 months. What do they want to achieve in their careers? How can I help them as a manager? And how can the organization help them through things like the training, the shadowing, the other professional development that we offer? Then what we have to make sure that actually managers are then checking in with those employees on a regular basis, as well as just the day-to-day, is we have quarterly objectives that as managers and employees we can set to make sure that actually we're delivering what we need to do from an organizational perspective. So there are specific things that people in my team need to deliver, but also as part of that, we get them to think about what's a quarterly development goal that that person would want to do. So is that a particular training course they'd have liked to attend? Do they want to have tried a new project or worked with a particular team to really continue that progression over the year? But organizations will be totally different. There might be some who go, well, actually, we're super fast moving here. In a month's time, everything might look different in terms of what we're doing than the previous month. And so actually we'd want to hold those discussions monthly, or actually we're a bit of a slower paced business. Our managers are kind of busy doing the do. And actually we would want to have kind of smaller conversations every 6 months to say, actually, let's do that check-in. So really it's about understanding what's important to your organization, what will work for your managers and best support your managers and employees to have really good performance conversations. And then, of course, thinking about what is the best way of using a system like Cascade, which is absolutely amazing. Love it for performance management. It's so good. Of being able to say, how can we build that into a system so that it's an easy lift for managers and employees and HR professionals as well. But all about starting from the basis of what do I need from my organization, what's going to work here, and then automating those processes from there. So just as one example of some of the ways that we do it, Stuart, if you want to give a quick demo of that fab quarterly objectives screen that I mentioned.
Yes, no problem at all. So what we've got here is really two things that we can do with this screen. The first one is to list the departmental goals. So this is going to make sure that the employees and the managers are keeping on track to the overall company objectives, and how they fit in with the wider company. So we've got you can list all your departmental goals within here, and then moving on to that, then you can have specific. We use SMART objectives, so for them to be specific, measurable, agreed, realistic, and time-based. So all of those are in a specific category. So the employees can choose what kind of objectives they've got, or the managers can do this for them, whichever you prefer, and however you work on there. But once those have been agreed between the manager and the employee, then we can be monitoring the status of these. So you can set your deadlines within the system. So there's going to be specific reminders coming in for both the employee and the manager, that the objective 1 deadlines are about to be breached, and whether or not they've achieved them, they've passed, failed. All of that kind of information can all be summarized in some comprehensive reports on entire employees, or on a department group report if you want to do that. But we can list all the objectives as we're going through for each quarter. And then we can be checking in on each individual quarter as well. So you can be using the workflows in conjunction with this screen. So the reminders are going to be coming up. You can schedule the meetings to actually happen. So we've got that Outlook integration, or even Google Calendars integration, whichever you prefer on there. So we can be setting the meeting dates. We can be, reviewing the data that's coming through in here. And then you can, once you've gone through all the quarters, then you can be going through the year-end reviews. You can also drag and drop external documents into these kind of screens as well if you want to. So if you've got anything that you need to add to this, or any additional evidence, or any additional, support material that you want to drop into there, you can do that. So it's just all in one nice, easy file. How does that look?
That's fantastic. Thank you, Stuart. And as I say, it's a fantastic way that kind of we use the 2 different screens that we've built in Cascade to be able to support those kind of flexible, regular, and then annual discussions. So yeah, really, really great to see that. And hopefully it's given some inspiration to some of the people dialing in today about some of the different ways that they might want to support improving their systems as well. So no, thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, Lizzy. Thanks, Stuart. These have been some amazing examples of how HR software can help. That's all we've got time for today. So thank you to everyone joining, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.